How you doing? It's Peter here from the Saltwater Edge. We got Robbie Taylor, Captain Robbie Taylor of Newport Sportfishing Charters.
What's up, guys?
Got a nice little intimate group here, and he's going to take us to school on rigging. And we talked a little bit in advance about tog rigs, some FG knots, a whole bunch of different things. So Robbie, take it away. And I'm your guy if you need me to run and go get something or
Yeah,
anything.
I mean, I don't know. We just kind of keep it short and sweet, but talk about like how we rig stuff on the boat. And I mean, for the most part, I would say 99% of the rigging we do would be using the FG knot. I mean, it's nice, thin diameter, braid to, leader connection. So that's important. Because we do fish braid on almost all of our reels. I don't have any straight mono set up, so everything would be braid or braid backed. And then we have a top shot of Seagar fluorocarbon on there. Different fluorocarbon for different things, but for the most part, all our setups would be connected in that way. Whether it's our spinning or conventional, whether we're bottom fishing for tog, casting eels for stripers. I mean, even when I'm, trolling lead core, I still have a connection between the lead core to my tube and worm setup. And even that, I actually tie an FG knot. I just take the lead out and I FG that part of the lead core just because it goes through the guide. It's super nice.
That's the reason, and it keeps the profile down too to some other knots.
It's so strong. I mean, look I do in a pinch. If I got to do something and like the fish are blitzing and I want to get it out as fast as possible, I will throw a uni to uni knot in there, in which I'll show how to do that as well, because I can tie a uni to uni knot in like very, very quickly with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
That
a little bit bulkier,
but it's bulkier. It doesn't go through the guides as nice, and which then limits your leader length. And I like to have a good long top shot, even when I'm bass fishing. If we're live lining eels or something like that, I like to have like a 10 to 15 foot shot of fluorocarbon, and then that we'll work it down. It starts at 15, and then obviously we cut back as it gets abraded, which does happen. And then, but once it gets to about any shorter than 6 feet, I'm chucking it. And
is top shot a term just generally for leaders after?
Yeah,
okay,
I would think so. Yeah, just a leader length.
Good enough.
Yeah.
And any guys have questions, fire away while he's on a roll.
Don't hesitate.
Yeah.
Because I mean, think about just natural Newport, Block Island, and all the structure we fish, right? You have so much relief and there's so much natural rock. So if you have like a 4-foot leader, I mean, it's okay. But you're fishing a cliff that goes from 30 feet to 55 feet, and that fish could be down there. Your braid that's rubbing on the rocks. I mean, braid, it depends on like the carriers and stuff like that. Some of it is more abrasion resistance, but it is nowhere near as abrasion resistant as if you're using mono or fluorocarbon, right? It's just way, way better in the rocks. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. The basics, anyway.
Yeah. So that's how you might decide leader length and that kind of, and different materials for different things. But
yeah, I mean, and there's other knots you can tie in a pinch that we talked about before too, like an Albright and stuff like that. I don't use an Albright. I mean, it's okay. They're strong. It's not a bad knot, but I just find the FG is stronger. So sometimes, where I fish, we have to put a little more heat to it, and so that connection is going to take a lot of abuse. But a properly tied Albright is quick, strong.
Yep.
So I don't know, but
and so the FG is just something over time you can whip it out pretty.
I've tried all kinds of knots.
Yeah, I bet.
And still try knots. I like to mess around. There's all kinds of knots that people try.
San Diego, something you were talking about walking in here.
People started even freshwater now. They use a San Diego jam knot, and that was a popular knot for like offshore stuff, but it made its way into inshore stuff.
Sure.
And they're strong. I mean, I've seen all kinds of cool knots out there that just look cool, but for me, it's pretty simple. It's gonna be, I still tie, if I'm tying hooks, snell on certain applications, right? We can go over how to snell. That's actually, we'll grab an octopus hook here in a minute and I can do that. But other than that, I'm normally just tying a regular fisherman's knot, 8 twists in it, and do that, and well lubricated, and pull it, and it's pretty tight.
Yeah, the lubricating is key.
Yeah,
right?
you don't want to, you can tell if you tie a knot and you didn't lubricate it well, it actually looks like it burns, you know, in your mono or your fluoro, and it makes like a little kink in it. It's kind of ugly looking, you know. Or tying a polymer knot to a hook too. That's a super strong knot. I mean, the polymer knot is very, very strong.
Robbie, did you do the bimini twist at all?
Sometimes. Yeah. So a lot of times a bimini twist, if I'm going from like a trolling setup, I'll do a bimini twist to my snap swivel to like what would be my spreader bars. And I think that's a great connection. It's super, super strong too. So yeah, biminis are good, you know, tied well. Like time consuming, but like, you know, I wouldn't use it for inshore stuff, but for offshore definitely has applications. Cool. You know, I mean,
random question about the offshore just made me think of it. You know, it used to be a lot of top shots, but it seems now that FG and maybe some other knots, but FG primarily is the most common choice for like the jig and pop guy or the jigging, because
it's you can tie it quickly,
cast better,
and you can tie it in like with hollow core or just standard braid, you know. I mean, some guys that are doing jig and pop seriously, they'll probably still prefer the loop-to-loop connections. I mean, if you look at like Dominic Petrarca, for example, I mean, he just does, that's all he does is jig and pop. His system of loop-to-loop connections is very good, and it's very, very strong. Now, most of the stuff that I would do is vertical jigging based, but on occasion, sometimes I got to break out a long rod, and I can quickly tie an FG, and then, you know, we can get some poppers and get stuff rigged up. You know, for me, that system works well. But I mean, he is targeting giant fish on light tackle as far as jig and pop goes, and those connections, that loop to loop system is pretty foolproof. You know, with crimps and very, very secure connections. So, and like anything, when you're rigging, like, you got to match it to what your quarry is too, you know. I mean, a lot of that too, you could even talk about that with leader length, right? When you're tog fishing, I mean, if you only have like a 3-foot top shot, you can get away with it, but it's not good. You know, it's how many times in your life will a 20 tog bite your crab? Maybe once if you're lucky. So you want to be ready. You don't want to, you know.
Well,
you got to always think that the next bite's going to be, and I've fallen into it, like the next bite's going to be a big one. But like you're fishing and the bite's really good and you're catching fish and you're like, there's that little bit of fray and you're like, just one more. Let me just drop that one more and then I'll change it. And then it's like, then you get that big bite and you're like, you know, instantly. You're like, oh no. And all you can think about now is that fray. And normally if it's going to break, it'll break on that fray. So...
I mean, we were talking earlier. You were talking with Kobe earlier, and that's all it. You were joking about it. So, well, why would you do that? Because the next one could be the one you've been there all night or there all season for.
Yeah, you're in the surf. You're putting the hours slogging up and down in a wetsuit. Definitely getting a lot of chafe if you put hours in, and you know, you hook that 70-pounder. Have the best connection you can have.
Yeah. So you rebuild leaders a lot during the course of the day, and all that?
I'm always checking them. You know, I like to hover over people and check them. You know, and kindly suggest what they are. But you know, I mean, there's no tried and true. But like if you do see fray, it's always good. You know, to change it. You know, and leader lengths can always vary depending on what you're doing. Sure. But at least with the FG, having a longer leader just is nice because passes through your guides easy. You know, there's less restriction.
Excellent. You want to start maybe with the FG? I mean,
sure.
we won't do a close-up or anything because people will see a video online, but maybe talking about what you're thinking as you do it.
I can talk it over as I do it. So, I mean, awesome. I guess the first thing to do...
You guys want to clip crowd in a little?
I like to take the braid and I kind of put it, so like if I had it in a rod or something like that, I would just keep the braid under some tension. And then what you do is you just take your, you know, we got some Seaguar inshore right now. And I'll pass it over the top of it. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna go and weave it in and out. So I'll go over the top and then I'm gonna go towards Peter and go back around and up. And I'll pull that tight. Now I'm gonna go back behind it again and pull it towards me. And I'm gonna go back towards Peter and pull it in like that. Now I would do this, I did that twice. I like to do it like 22 times, 22, 24, some guys do it 19. Do it a couple times, whatever seems to work, go with that. So we'll just do it like that, we'll just alternate.
He's on a roll.
There it is, that's fast.
Got enough tension?
little burr on the, oh, there we go. That's better. Like that. Now, as I get towards the end, so I'm about to be done with my loops, I'll kind of pinch it right there and I'll just hold the whole thing. So now I can let go. So I have everything there. All the weaves are right there. And what you're gonna do is I like to just pull it tight again because I still have tension there. And then I'm just gonna tie 1/2 hitch over my leader material, going back towards those. And I'll tie one more, right? Just to lock it in for now. All right, so that's all done. So now I can let go.
Tension-wise, you're good.
We're good. Now, the most important thing about this knot is the seating of it. I used to resist using knot pullers before. I would use things on the boat, you know. You can make your own knot pullers or get knot pullers, but, you know, I used to just use the smooth on my pliers. Having the rubber coating on there grips it better. It's just a smoother, consistent pull. It really does make a difference in how you seat your knot. Trust me, I thought it was a gimmick before, but someone invented them for a reason and they actually do work. So, you know, I like to take a couple wraps, and you wrap it in there. And then what you're looking for, if you look at it, guys, like you can all kind of see it. See how it's just, you can see the braid on top of there, but as you pull it, and it starts to see how it changes color, and it almost starts to look like the braid and the fluorocarbon kind of come together. See how it gets, like, I guess it would be more translucent.
It doesn't appear to get shorter. It just appears to change, like.
Correct.
Interesting.
So it almost like looks like it melts. If you look at it, see that? How it melted in there?
It bites right in.
Once you get that, you know you got it done. So then, okay, now you got to finish it. So, still got my tension.
Yep.
So now what I'll do is I'll tie 1, 2 more, and then I'll trim my fluorocarbon very, very tight, right in against it. I mean, you can basically push it right up to it.
Now, Robbie, you don't do the risotto finish?
I will, so at the end. So what I like to do now is I'm gonna run up a bunch of half hitches. I'll do like 7. And what it does is it kind of starts to make like this chain. I find that this like little series of half hitches protects the knot from going in and out of the guides, because even with the FG, if you don't have enough protection, it can beat it up a little bit, and it can start to like put wear on it on that spot where the knot is.
Where it starts.
Correct. So you'll see right here before I do the risotto, but it makes like this little cushion as it comes around. 6, 7. But if you can see that right in there, so it starts to spin around, but see how it's just all those in line? It just protects that end, that terminal end of the knot. Yeah. But then now I'll do the risotto finish, which is basically, it's almost like you're tying a half hitch, but I just go under it 4 times. 3, 4. And then what you do is, once you have that, just start to snug it up kind of tight, and then you just unwrap what you did. So that way that it'll pull it so that the terminal end ends up down there. So you unwrap what you did. It gives you like this little loop that you can see right there. And then it makes it so that you're pulling it down that way. And that kind of caps the whole system. I mean, it didn't take that long.
No.
You know, talking it through step by step. I mean, it's a super strong connection. So, and it's just one that once you kind of get used to tying it, the more you tie it. And I like to cut that under tension really close too. Just like that. Colby's got nice sharp cutters. So, but that is what we use for so many things. I mean, and it's crazy. It's nice whether I got, you know, 20-pound braid going to 40-pound for jigging for blackfish.
So do the different diameters, because that's one of the things I liked about the uni. I mean, it's a get out of jail one, but it does different materials, different diameters, covers everything. This does too.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Didn't think of that.
I mean, I've used it in a pinch. I've done, 65-pound braid to 100-pound fluorocarbon. When we ran into some bigger bluefin and it holds. I mean, it's a pretty amazing knot. I mean, we've caught and landed tuna up to 85 inches on it, and countless giant bass. I mean, the way I fish for bass, I use a lot of very light tackle. I like to catch the biggest bass with the lightest tackle. Mm-hmm. So some days, I mean, you could be over at Block and high sun and you're casting eels at noontime in 10, 12 feet of water. It might be 20-pound braid to 20-pound fluoro, mm-hmm. But you're still catching monster fish. But I think that just having like that extra long section helps, you know what I mean? Because
the leader.
Yep. Because it takes all the abuse.
Any history of the knot? Where'd it come from?
Oh man, I wish I knew. I don't know.
Stump
who
the
invented
start.
it.
There you go.
I picked it up from a couple of guys from down here, and then I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then just started practicing and tying it, and then it was like, I still stuck to the uni to uni because it was tried and true for me. So, but then, I just tied a couple times, and the first couple I tied definitely sucked, and they weren't good. And I'd be like, and then I'd put it down for a minute, and then I'd be like, still casting my uni to uni, hearing it bounce through the guides, which it does, but then every once in a while, you'll knock a tip out or something, and think, there's got to be a better way. Oh, the FG, that's right, I got to practice it again. And then, about sit down, tie 10 in a row. 10 or 12 in a row, you can get it. You get it down.
I mean,
don't get
winter project, right?
It's it. And then it just does. It passes through the guides, super nice, and it's strong, right? I mean, it's essentially the stronger you pull, the tighter it does. It just continues to lock down. Yeah. And some people do use super glue and stuff like that. I don't think if you finish it this way, it's necessary. I don't think you need to.
And the risotto, just to clarify, you said something about 4.
Yeah, I did 4
more half hitches, then you did 7?
Well, it's kind of like if I was tying almost a uni knot. So you just put a loop in, bend the loop, and then pass the braid around the braid 4 times, snug it tight, and then you just untwist what you did. If you look at it, there's definitely some great YouTube videos that are nice, slow, close up with, like a David Attenborough type voice that you'll make you pay attention, and someone will have that there.
How important do you think the risotto is?
I think it is just because it just the way that if you just tied it with a half hitch. And if you look at just the way a half hitch is structured, if you just ended it with a half hitch just because it's just that one turn, just the pressure of going through the guides over time can uncoil it. You know what I mean? That's why you don't tie up your boat with a half hitch or just do any, a half hitch is good for like locking something for a little bit. But I think just having those extra turns and that you're pulling it down, the way that it's pushing on, like as it's going out, or it's more so now when it's coming back in rather. So it's coming, your line's under tension, and you got to think that the risotto is coming in against the guides this way. And I think it just has a less of a tendency to unravel.
So it's more of a longevity thing, not a enhanced.
Yeah, I don't think it provides any strength. All your strength ends once you tie that first terminal half hitch, right? Because the weave is what makes it strong. So the half hitch is just to keep the weave from coming undone. Everything that's past the weave is just to keep it from coming undone. Because there is a lot of stress, right? It's going in and out of the guides, in and out of the guides, in and out of the guides. But it's good not to go in and out of the guides.
Yeah.
Now, Robbie, you're talking about in and out of the guides. I may have missed this earlier, but how much leader are you?
That's a beauty. You can make it as long as you want. So I could go 20 feet. I can go 15 feet. Like for me, typical bass setups, I have about 15 feet. Just
then
because
you can be cutting back.
I cut back, right. And once they get to about 6 feet, then I'll junk it and I'll start over again. Just because I like to have it there.
Right.
But I mean, same thing. If I'm blackfishing, I'd like to have, if I have it in my hand, if I'm fishing my 7-foot rod, I like to have at least 1 wrap on the reel. You could do 2 wraps, but 1 seems to be fine. Something like that.
So you have a very long leader for tog.
Yes, very long.
What does that sound like in terms of feet?
I mean, that's still about 15 feet. It's a little more. My rod, I'm fishing a 7.3.
Yeah.
So it's a little over double that.
Okay. And any thoughts on the material for the different species, be it tog, stripe, or tuna? I mean, I know you had some thought. I know
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
very pro
yeah,
on
I
cigar,
mean-
but they're
well, yeah,
three or
I
four
mean,
different versions.
Like, yeah, if I'm jigging tuna fish, I'm all about the Premier. I like that thinner leader material just as a presentation, right? It cuts
Yeah.
through the water better. I mean, that way your jigs aren't scoping out as much. It makes a huge difference, you know. But if I'm surf casting at night or I'm togging, you know, the inshore is tough to beat. I mean, this stuff, or even the salmon SST, because both of those, I mean, are made
For abrasion.
you know, and that's it's not so much a sight thing, it's a all out boxing match.
Yeah. Going back to the tuna, what was the leader length there? 'Cause you said you're more jigging than,
Yeah,
than
same.
casting.
I'll still do 20 foot.
Yeah.
You know, I like to have a long leader while vertical jigging.
Yeah. And is that a crimp setup, or what? How do you do the last bit of it?
No,
I know
I
you do on
mean,
the poppers,
so
you do
it,
often a crimp.
it depends like that. I mean, if let's just say we're targeting the fish that we had last year south of the island, I was fine to get away with 85 pound, you know, Seagar Premier, you know, or 80, and I was using 65 pound braid to an FG nut, because most of those fish were, you know, 40 and change to like, you know, a couple of bigger ones would be 55, even pushing 60, you know. Can you land bigger fish on it? I mean, yeah, we got a 76 incher that we released jigging, but we weren't trying to catch 76 inchers. If we were, then I'm gonna beef up. It'll be 100 pound Premier. You know, we're gonna go, I'll make a spliced loop on the end, loop to loop. It'll be a stronger, you know, setup.
Yeah.
If I knew that's what I was targeting. But for the most part, the FG to a Palomar knot to my swivel, and then, you know, using a split ring to put the jig on there.
So most of my jigging experience has been like Point Jude or Ron Z. How do you? You doing something different, or what do you rig?
No,
How
I
do
mean,
you
it's the
finish
same.
to
So-
the ring on the lure?
To the hard ring, I'm
Yeah,
just
that's what I'm
doing
asking.
a Palomar knot.
Okay.
But you could crimp it, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, because all my chatter jigs, I just take a Palomar knot and I
Yeah.
put them on there, whether it's a chatter or the Point Jude,
Yep.
you know, and it's easy. And I tie a Palomar knot to a swivel, and then I'll use a split ring,
Yeah.
you know,
Got it.
and then the jigs I just change them out via split ring.
Whispering plier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that way you're not cutting back.
Yep.
But you catch enough tuna, you better cut back anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while too, if you catch a bunch and a Palomar knot still there, I just, like every second tuna, I was cutting them and just retying them.
Yeah.
Food, peace of mind for me.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I hear for sure is you're meticulous. You know, and you see a little bit of chafe, you see the stakes are high. And-
Yeah.
Look at the smile, man.
I've seen lots of battles won and lost, even on perfect gear.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, perfect gear. We had some blackfish that people hooked this year. You know, a couple customers of mine. I saw Mike hook a very big one
Yeah.
when we were fishing the tournament. That I've seen it. You know, and that one actually it didn't chafe. The hook just pulled, but. You know, Daphne had one that rocked her that she got off the bottom and it just went back and would not come back out. I mean, it was still taking drag and everything, and it was all pow. I mean, and she was fishing it right. She had heavy fluoro, fresh hooks. I mean, everything was right.
Yeah.
And it just won, you know.
Yeah.
Certain fish are just not meant to be caught, and they don't want to.
Yeah. So we did the FG and we went through some of the materials for the different species, be it tog, stripe, or tuna.
Yeah.
You want to do it tog rig? Is there something I can run around and get for you?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Why don't we snell a hook? If you could grab me an octopus hook, just grab like a 7 or an 8-0, and I'll show a snell, because it's a good one that, I mean, because I use snell hooks for, you know, whether and it could be a circle, it doesn't have to be any octopus style hook, circle, J hook, doesn't matter.
But not the inline, right?
Yeah, not the inline.
But you need the up eye.
Yeah, just the up eye.
Yeah.
Just-
2 aught, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, whatever, just something that's big enough so people can see it. So we'll cut our pretty FG knot here. Here, let's go with, what do we got?
Yeah, I'll go get the
Get
up
a
eye,
big
though.
one.
Yeah.
Get a
yeah.
big one. It'll make it easier. I got fat fingers, you know? Spinning around.
I can still see Sammy sitting out at his shop.
Sammy and I-
Snelling hooks.
Sammy and I tie ours different.
It's surprising he
They come
still
out the
has
same.
teeth.
Oh yeah.
That'll work.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Good.
So, but So the easiest way for me to snell is I pass the line through, come around, and then I'll make this loop and I'll pinch it right here. So I'm gonna make a loop back around and kind of pinch it. I don't know if you can see me. Am I in frame? How am I doing?
Yeah, you're doing great.
All right. So we'll pinch it right up where it comes out, and I'm gonna leave a little bit of a tag end right here. Now I take these fingers and I grab the loop, and I got the tag end, and you just go like this, and you bring it up and over, passing the loop through. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You just do it 6.
Kind of getting lost in the backdrop.
7. Yeah, we can do it zoomed up. Click. Yeah, you can't tell. I mean, look, if I get a beard hair in there, it's guaranteed not to break. But see how it finishes like that? And the idea is, some people do a snell that it ends up where like the tag end is on the outside, and I don't like that one, because if this gets frayed and the tag end part is on the outside, the whole thing will fail much quicker, where this can take a lot of abuse. You know, but it's quick to tie. I mean, I'll tie it again. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, and as you pointed out already, there's loads of good, videos on the internet and stuff like that you could refer. But the fact you're talking through them is really helpful.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, it's beautiful. Jeez.
and it's quick, so you can snell these up quick. But a lot of it is just learning on like where to pinch the knot too, just to hold it. I mean, even when I do a uni to uni, I have a way of holding it in my fingers that just makes it quick, but same thing. So it's just, I have it pinched here, that little tag end, and you can pull the loop out easier. Like I push it through with my fingers, but now I can just go right around it, and it's just, 6, 7, done.
When with your teeth.
Just like that. I mean, and those are pretty much like the 2 knots that I use the most. And then the next one will be the polymer. It's a good connection knot. It's very strong. And I still use a fisherman's knot sometimes if I feel like it.
The clinch knot, the improved, or the
Yeah, no, I just use regular clinch knot.
Yeah.
I will use an improved.
clinch fisherman, same thing, right?
I'll use an improved clinch when you get down to the lower tests, when we're ice fishing or I'm doing some freshwater stuff and I'm in that, 8 pound, 6 pound. I'll use an improved, because that stuff's thin and slick.
And when you go to finish off a clinch knot, do you pull on the part going to the rod tip or the tag end?
So I pull on the tag end, pull it away while I'm pulling the main line, both, just so nice and steady, not quick, just steady till I get all my wraps down, and then I'll seat it. Because that way, I don't like to have like, you can kind of see sometimes if you pull one really quick and you didn't lube it at all, and it looks like it's like got all these kinks in it, and it heats it up, and it kind of makes like a burn, and I don't like that.
I've heard that a couple of times, a consistent pull and lubricate.
Yeah, don't be afraid of the spit.
Yeah. But I mean, whatever the different knots, not just an FG rule, it's like across the board.
Yeah.
Good rigging habit.
Yeah, it is. Yep. Yeah, almost on any knot. Yep. Because I mean, it's heating up as you're pulling everything together. You want it to slide together nicely.
And then, so I heard clinch and polymer, that would make the 3 or 4 knots used the most, right?
Correct.
And the polymer, again, one more time, I think of it as a braid to leader connection for the surf guy,
Or to a
something like
swivel.
that. But it could be
You could tie it
FG could step right into that same spot.
Correct. Yeah, I
Okay.
would get rid of it because I don't like to use swivels. Just not that swivels are bad, but I prefer to have an FG connection versus a swivel, because like we fish a lot of topwater.
Yep.
The swivel in front of your topwater lure is affecting the action of the lure. So if you have pre-tied leaders and you have a swivel on them, yes, it's a good connection. But you got to think about like, what are you trying to accomplish on the other end and how that, can affect it, because you're trying to put slack into the line and to snap. Say you're walking the dog when we fish in topwater, say we're fishing the dock or something like that. As that swivel sinks, it's imparting more drag on it, so it's not allowing you, if you're having trouble walking the dog and you're tying a swivel, try not getting rid of the swivel. It might make it, a little bit easier.
Sure. When do you use the swivel then? I mean, I tell people when they come in here and ask, when you have a lure that might
Yeah, if
spin,
it's spin,
like
if I'm
some kind of tins or something
Yeah,
like that, eel.
You could use it on a tin, or if I'm trolling like a tube.
Yeah,
I like
tube,
to have
yeah,
a good
obviously.
barrel swivel, but I like to have that closer to the tube, not so much in my
Going through the guides.
going through the guides.
Well, plus you're a charter captain, and you can't attend to everybody, and you must hear, if you had swivels, you'd hear it go through the ceramic
Oh yeah.
multiple times a day, probably.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you'd put a bead. I'd put a bead if that was happening, or bottom fishing. I'd put a
Yeah.
bead on it. But like, I'll use a swivel if I'm like doing like a chicken rig for fluking or something like that, just because it's easier to connect it to, or a high-low rig fishing for sea bass. I'll pre-make some of those. Have them pre-made.
Did you whip one out?
Yeah, just a super.
Yeah, what do you need from me
Just
for
a dropper
high-low
loop.
rig?
I mean, no, I just make one out of
Okay.
this. I mean, if I was making one for sea bass, I mean, dropper loop is essentially the way I like to do it is I just tie it overhand like this. Just keep going. I'll do it like 6 times. I don't know. Could do it more, do it less. There's no right or wrong way, people. And we'll do a big one. And then I'll just pull it through. I'll open up one of these loops, try to get it right in the middle. And this is like a proper dropper loop. And then I'll show you another way that I do it that's kind of lazy. That still works if I'm sea bassing. You know? Pulling it through. And got it like that. And you can keep it together like that if you want. And you can cut it and go with a single line. You can cut it from there and have it come off. But you can also do it this way. This is like the quick and dirty way. I'll do like a triple surgeon dropper loop.
Triple surgeon?
Yeah, so like
And leave the tag.
I just leave it as it is. So like
Yeah.
I would just put this in there and just, you know,
1, 2, 3.
you know how it is. It's an easy one. And then it stands off just as well, especially with this inshore. It's nice and stiff.
Hope we don't run out of spit.
Just cinch that down tight, and then you have, you know, a dropper loop right there. You know, although I guess there is one knot I
So
forgot.
this is your high low, because there's something
Yeah,
here too.
then I would have a weight.
Yeah.
And you know what? I do use one other knot though that I didn't even think about
do
until
it.
you mentioned it, and it's a perfection loop.
Yeah.
I like to make all my sinker drops with a perfection loop because it's not super strong, but it's strong enough. So a perfection loop, I mean, for those of you that don't know, but you just go around, pinch it, go over it, and you pull it.
You need a third hand for when you learn that for a little bit. But
Yeah, but that's how all knots are. It's all about figuring out how to manipulate, and I'll tie the perfection loop like that. Now, I like this knot because it's strong enough that if my sinker gets stuck while I'm blackfishing, I can still mess around with it and try to get it out. Although you don't want to mess around with it too much. If it gets stuck, don't bounce it. Just feel it around nice and easy, and if it's really stuck, just break it off. I'll get you another sinker. But yeah, you don't want to disturb the blackfish in its home. Nobody
That's true.
banging around. So, but the perfection loop, and then the way I would do my tog rigs is, you know, I would have just this perfection loop at the bottom of a dropper, and the sinker. This will normally break before the, you know, your dropper loops will, so that you lose the sinker and get your hooks back. So.
And is there ever a reason to do multiple?
Yeah, if you're doing a high-low, you could do 2.
That is the high low.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would just do another one up
Yeah,
here.
got it. I wasn't.
So I got my weight, you know, I put my whatever, gulp,
Yeah. And that's the fluke rig too. the
fluke
high-low.
rig, sea bass rig, yeah,
Yeah.
high-low, catches all kinds of stuff, even blackfish.
Excellent. I think we ran through the cigar version. Do you have any thoughts? I saw you pull an octopus with the up eye for the snelling. Obviously, that one makes sense to me. Any other hook, terminal tips? I mean, we talked about when to use a swivel. We've gone through the cigar versions as it relates to their attributes. Any hook, digging tog, striper, tuna again? Any?
I mean, a lot of it is personal preference, what
Yeah.
you like for hooks, you know.
What are you looking for in
I
a
like-
tog hook, for
I like-
example?
I like anything that has like a cut point technology.
Mm-hmm.
Like Owner SSTs are very good when they're tog hooks, but
Yeah.
same thing. I mean, you
That's
gotta
to get the
yeah,
penetration.
That's right. They got super hard mouths,
Mm-hmm.
But like anything, all hooks, I mean, especially chemically sharpened hooks, They can be sharpened with a file to a degree, but a lot of times you got to pay attention to everything. If your hook starts to get dull, you just got to change your rig.
Yeah.
But you know, guys I take togging, those guys are all, they make my job easy.
They got it figured out.
They are, all of them are killers.
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
Even this guy, he's, you know, I remember when he first started togging. Now he's a killer.
So the hook is more of a personal preference, is the way you describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust me. You could, if we start talking about hooks, that could open up a debate that goes on, you know,
Yeah.
forever. I mean, right now there's a cool one where guys doing some testing on tuna hooks, and like it's there's a whole thing about people who hate this hook, hate that hook.
Yeah.
You know.
That's all personal versus data, probably. you know?
Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I have the hooks that I like in my system, and I just keep it that way.
Yeah.
It's been working.
Right. Right. Do you do a lot of rigging in advance
I do as much as I can.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yep.
through the winter kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll make some rigs. It depends. A lot of stuff I won't want it to sit for too long, depending on what
point.
it is. So, you know, but I'll do like my sea bass rigs. I'll have a couple hundred of those ready to go.
Whew.
You know.
And just a little bit about Newport Sportfishing. You said you might start your tog by middle April, was it? Or what was
Yeah,
the date you said?
we normally start towards the end of April. The
End of
last
April.
week of April, a lot of it varies from year to year. You got water temps and conditions, you know. So I try not to
This
go.
is all not predicated on when the ice goes out.
Yeah, no,
Right.
it's not. No, there's still probably ice by then. So, but you know, we'll launch the boat and we'll take a few test trips. But
Yeah.
by that last week of April, the tog bite is generally on.
Yeah.
You know, could it be on earlier? Yes, but I don't know if it would be good enough that I would want to take people.
Right.
I don't want to pull my hair out and and grind. I
Yeah.
want them to catch lots of fish and be happy.
Sure. And then do you have a couple of, I know one of the things that I've known you a long time, and you catch all kinds of species. I know you love ice. I know you love largemouth bass, but a tremendous saltwater fisherman. So I think it might be helpful for people to hear a little bit about how what the sequence of your season is, because you shift gears to, you're not a this fisherman. You shift gears to what.
We'll start early season. We'll be to tog. I mean, that's the first thing we'll target, and then like last year, we had a good bass bite right off the get. I mean, we were catching decent sized 32 to 36 inch fish by the last week of April. It rolled right into May.
Mm-hmm.
And then May is kind of fun because we're still black fishing and we have stripers around.
So you might do both in a day.
Can do both in a day, if it arises. Some years the fluking can be decent in May. Last year, we didn't spend that much time, so I couldn't really tell. I didn't put a lot of effort into it because we were having too much fun black fishing and doing the striper thing. By May through June, we're catching stripers, and by I'd say like early June throughout the rest of the summer, then it's stripers, sea bass, fluke, and then by middle to end of June, we're mixing up the inshore with offshore.
Yeah.
We got tuna around.
And that's a yearly kind of varies, but
Always
you're
varies.
eager.
Yep.
You're ready to go.
Yep. I
And you used some shark too, didn't you? Don't you?
Yeah, we always do some. We do some shark trips.
When does that time of year land?
Still, I'd say about July. You're talking end of June, July.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
There's almost not enough time the way you fish, because the variety that you have.
This is like a blur.
Yeah.
It just goes by.
Yeah. But I know you, and I remember this year it was pretty late. The boat came out
We fished
middle
till
of December.
We fished till December.
Yeah.
Black fishing is very good still for us. Depending on how the storm's set up and everything. But if it's like a not too stormy of a season, I mean, I think fishing for us is consistent all the way to the middle of December anyway.
Yeah,
And then there's been not this season, but the season previous, I actually had to take my boat out anyway because I was getting engine work done.
Right,
So we were
remember.
repowering the Real Easy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know other captains that they caught blackfish all the way till the new year. I mean, right till the very end, it was
And
still
how
a
deep is
decent
that
bite.
point, though? I mean,
It depends. It's not necessarily a depth thing, but location thing, right? I mean, you're going to be fishing more
pretty
offshore.
simplistic. I know it's
Yeah, I
shallow
mean,
early.
I'm
and
not
then-
going to be fishing as close to inshore, so I'm still going to be targeting offshore pieces. You know, so the runs are going to be longer. And a lot of times the drops will be deeper. But still anywhere in that 50 to 120 foot depth.
Wow.
You know.
Amazing. The Excellent. So, you guys have any other questions for Robbie? Well, I want to thank you for coming. I want to encourage people to check out Newport Sportfishing. I'm sure there's a .com there.
Sure.
And have you opened up your book for next year?
Always.
I
It's
think
open.
people, don't they walk off the boat and rebook?
Oh yeah, for blackfishing. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
if you want fall blackfish dates that are between the October 15th up until the very first week of December, that is full. But I do have some stuff a little bit earlier on the side of October, and I do have some stuff on the later side of December. You know, and like I said, I mean, fishing has been decent, you know, all the way.
And you'd stay in if you weren't repowering, and those kind of years you would have been out
And
there.
until the fishing's good. If
Yeah.
the fishing, all of a sudden, we get some winter storms and it goes to hell in a handbasket, unfortunately, I will not take you for a boat ride.
Yeah.
I am not that kind of person.
Yeah.
I hate boat rides. I like, you know what I mean? So,
Excellent.
I don't have that many jokes either.
Thanks a bunch, man.
All right, Peter.
Take care.